How's everybody doing today? You're watching Slot Car Mayhem. I'm John, and this will be another quick video series on the Workbench and a dedicated work area for cleaning and maintaining the slot cars. Having a dedicated work area, I think, is really important. It makes it really easy and convenient when you're, after a running session, you want to take care of your cars before you go ahead and pack them up and put them away. And it keeps everything at your fingertips. So having a dedicated area in itself, I think, is really important. The workbench overall, it's not big. I'm just using a old wooden desk that I've had for maybe 20 years or so. It's been used for everything under the sun, and I just decided to go ahead and set this up a bit. It's temporary. I've set it up just so I've got somewhere to work. It's here by the track. If I need to do a quick repair or something on one of the cars, I can just run over here and do it. And it keeps me going. And it gives me a nice comfortable place to sit down if I'm doing a really serious cleaning session or if I'm working on multiple cars. It's really convenient to sit down and actually spend some quality time here doing what we love. Me being me, I'm fortunate enough in this house that I've got plenty of room to set up areas for things that I'm working on. Example is in my airplane room, I have 4 large work areas. That's where I build larger radio-controlled aircraft. The smallest of which, of those 4, the smallest is a 24 by 80 hollow core door. And that's dedicated for either building sub-assemblies or doing general model work. And honestly, I used to use that quite a bit when I was in the HO days. I would just go in there and work and do what I had to do with the cars. It wasn't there by the track, and it was a little cumbersome at times because, you know, you had to go into a different room to work on your cars. So I decided, well, I was going to set one up here that's in the same room as the track. Makes life a lot easier, and it kind of keeps me in focus with the slot car mentality while I'm working on them because I'm right here by the track. A couple of the things that I like to keep here, and that way I've got everything at my fingertips, is I picked up a 30 drawer parts bin at one of the big box stores. I think I paid $10 for this. I keep all sorts of stuff in here. I've got track clips and barrier clips, spare motors, I've got brushes or pickups, even got all sorts of different stuff. I've got tires, all sorts of things I keep in there in the parts bin. Keeps it real handy and close at my fingertips. It's also large enough that I can keep one of the jewel cases as I'm working on a car. When I'm done with it, I can put it in the jewel case, throw it back on the shelf. It's just a handy little place to keep it. It's out of the way, it's not going to get damaged. And I've got, you know, additional room on top for things like my lubes and my adhesives, and I've even got a general purpose utility knife I keep handy in case I need to remove flashing. Most of the tools I use I keep just right over here. It's just out of the way and they're still at my fingertips. I'm using just the cheap screwdrivers. They seem to work just fine. I've got 2 different sets of MIP drivers, and anybody who knows anything about the MIP drivers knows that they're phenomenal. And I really just don't see spending $100 on a set of screwdrivers for these cars. I haven't found the need for it yet. So just a cheap set of screwdrivers. And I've got some alcohol wipes and some regular alcohol that I use for degreasing and stuff like that. So I just tend to keep those handy. One of my still absolute favorite items that I always use on the workbench is this lid for a Chinese food container. And I've probably used this lid, this exact same lid, for 10 years. Just for a little build area, a little parts tray. It's got this recessed groove right here. That's a great spot for me to stick the body screws. I can keep everything kind of separated as I'm tearing things apart. It makes it a lot easier to keep everything organized. I know where everything goes, and it keeps all the parts contained in one little tray. I've sought over the years, looking for something that I thought would be a viable alternative. Sometimes I catch a little ribbing, and I don't care about using this lid for the Chinese food container. But I really haven't found anything that I found that works better. So for this here, this works great for me. I think it's the perfect size for the 132 scales. And this is the same lid I used with HO, hence why I have the markings for front, rear, driver side, passenger side. That's still left over from the HO days, and I still haven't found anything that I like better. One of these days I may make something, But until then, I'm just as happy with this lid. It does exactly what I want, and it's just the right size. Now let's talk about another little thing that I always keep on my workbench, is this little thing right here, which I'm sure you've seen a longer version of it sitting on the track. And it is just simply a piece of 1x2, scrap 1x2, and I have it wrapped with some checkerboard contact paper. What purpose does it serve? Real simple. After I'm done cleaning everything and getting the tires all clean in the way I want, I can set the car like that, and the tires are now in the air. They're not contacting any surface where they can pick up any sort of contaminants. Same thing with the pickup braids. They're going to stay clean, and I don't have to worry about them picking up anything I don't want to. I can move it off and set it off over here, and it's just a way to help keep the car, the tires and the pickups clean, so I don't have to worry about them getting dirty. And I do the same thing with the on track. I've got a longer block that I use, same thing, 1x2 wrapped in contact paper, and I'll set the cars that I am keeping on the track. I'm still running, but I do that, you know, once again, so I'm not setting the car down on a track surface that may have contaminants on it and getting the tires all dirty. That's the sole purpose of it. Okay, let's talk about what I think is one of the more important items, and that's the surface itself right here. And this was very inexpensive. I think I paid $15 for a roll of this stuff big enough to do this work surface here at least twice. It's just, you can see it here, it's just 3/16 of an inch neoprene. This is just a yoga mat. It's real simple. And I've got this on a lot of my other work surfaces for a lot of the same reasons. One of them is if it's got a very textured, kind of a pebbly surface on top, and if you spill something like alcohol, or like I've got this Vallejo black wash, and that stuff is really thin, or any adhesive or anything like that, it's going to help contain anything you may spill to some degree, and that'll give you a little time to get everything out of the way if you spill. It's also a nice, soft, comfortable working surface. It's easy to clean, and I use alcohol wipes just like this, and I'll use those to go ahead and wipe the surface down prior to working on something if I feel I need to. And it's comfortable. That's easy. It's easy to renew. I just bought a roll of this stuff, and I just tacked it down here a little bit with a tiny little bit of spray adhesive, but you don't even have to. It'll lay out flat, it'll roll out flat, and it'll stay where you put it. If you're working on a temporary surface, cut a square big enough for you to work on and roll it up and keep it in your box, and when you lay it on the table, you can just throw it down and set your stuff on it and go. It's a great surface to have. A lot of reasons why. Also, I went the gray. In this case, it's a neutral color, and most of our screws tend to be black, and you can see, clear as a bell, there's a screw. You can find it really easy if you set something down on there. It doesn't get lost nearly as easy. Another great point is if you drop a screw, it's going to tend to stay much more than it would if you were to drop it down on a hard surface. It'll probably roll away on you. Same thing with a utility knife. It's going to roll a little bit, but it's going to kind of stay in place. You're not going to lose it or have it fall off the table into your foot nearly as easy. So it's a great surface to have, easy to clean, easy to renew, and kind of helps keep everything in place. And things like my little parts tray, the surface offers a pretty decent degree of resistance to movement, so I can set something down and it's going to stay there. It's not going to move around on you too much or slide around while you're trying to work on things. Really good thing to have. So if you're going to do anything, I'd recommend running over and picking yourself up a yoga mat. I think I paid $15 for this roll, and once again, it's big enough to do this surface here at least twice. Let's talk about some of the oddities I tend to keep on my workbench. First and foremost, just grab yourself a notepad and a pen and keep it there on your workbench. I can't tell you how many times I've had to go to a hobby shop with a laundry list of items I've needed to pick up, And I find myself at the hobby shop scratching my head trying to remember what exactly I needed. So I learned quite a few years ago that I need to write this stuff down. Sometimes I'm over there and I'm getting $150, $200 worth of small items, which tends to be quite a bit. I scratch build a lot, and having things written down for a shopping list or whatever is extremely handy, and I don't want to have to stop what I'm doing, run around, look for a pen and a piece of paper to write the stuff down. I just keep a notepad here. You'd be surprised how often you may end up using this after all, so I always keep one here available, ready to go when I need it. Another oddity that I tend to keep, and this one tends to raise a few questions here, is I keep a box of gallon-sized Ziploc bags and a stack of index cards, just regular 3x5 index cards. And I use these quite a bit for many different things, especially me. I'm a scratch builder, and I'm probably going to be scratch building at least the majority of my structures. And I'm doing design work now for pit buildings, and those are going to be scratch built. And there's going to be multiples, of course. I'm probably going to have 7, 8 of them or so. And that being said, what I like to do is I'll take, and as I'm making parts, I'll separate them out by building, and all the parts for each building will go in a gallon-sized baggie. I take a 3x5 index card, I'll write pit building number 1 on here, shove that in the baggie, and as I'm putting all these little mini kits together that are in the bags, they will go up on the shelf, and then I can pull a bag down. I know what pit building what building I'm building, and I've got all my little pieces and parts organized right in there. This is a leftover from a lot of radio control building that I do, either radio control cars or radio control planes, and I tend to pre-kit and reorganize kits into the bags with the assembly listed out on the baggie, and this is extremely helpful when you're building multiple kits at one time or you're working on multiple things at one time. So baggies and index cards, extremely valuable. Okay, let's talk about probably one of my favorite oddities that I have on my workbench, and I usually get quite a few questions about this one, and this is this thing right here. What in the world is this thing? Well, it's just a foam block, very soft, with a suede-like texture on here. This is a yoga block, and I actually bought this when I bought the mat material. Same place, picked it up at Walmart. I think this was $5. But what in the world do I use this for? Actually, I've got yoga blocks all over the place, and I use them on all my work areas for different types of things. There's a specific purpose here. This is the primary purpose. Is let's say I'm working on a car, doing what I need to do, take my body, set my body off over here. It should be safe here, fine, no problem. It's not going to get scratched, it's soft, it's everything else. And let's say I need to make a repair to the chassis here. So I pull out my glue, or I pull out my Black Max or whatever, and I'm working away doing what I got to do, and I spill it. Okay, now we've got the possibility for damaging the body on the car. So that being said, I pull this little guy out and I set my body up on that. I keep it out of the way, and there you go. And that way, if I'm working and I spill something, it's not going to get a hold of the body. So it's a nice little safe little storage spot that elevates everything off of the work surface. I do the same thing with the chassis if I want to get that out of the way. Just in case I spill something, it helps it from getting damaged. And that being said, also if I'm doing decaling or something, I can get in here and do what I need to do with decaling, or if I want to do any black washing or anything, any sort of detailing on the body, because once again it's soft, it's not going to scratch anything, but there's a element of rigidity here where it doesn't want to move on the block too terribly much, but the block can still slide very easy on this yoga mat work surface, and I can do what I need to do, and I can just turn things around. So extremely versatile yoga block. It's $5. It matches the table, of course. I did that just because. And I find myself at least using this thing all the time for different sorts of things. So this is something that I would highly recommend. If anything else, just a way to keep the body out of harm's way when you're doing and working with certain types of liquids or solvents or anything like that, so you don't damage your body. Okay, I guess this is going to wrap this one up. Once again, if you guys have any questions or additions, comments, anything like that, please let me know. I'm sure there's quite a few things I may have missed or don't have on my bench yet. Things like soldering iron, stuff like that. Yes, I do have them. Yes, I do use them. I have dedicated workstations for those elsewhere in the basement. So if I need to do anything like that, I just, grab the car, go over, do my repair, and come back. So that's not a big deal. But as things evolve and we move forward with different things, it's going to evolve, I'm sure. And this workstation here that I have set up, like I said before, this is temporary, and I'm going to be building a more suitable workstation that's going to be wall mounted, and it'll be fold away. That'll free up some valuable floor space and make everything look a little bit cleaner when I just close everything up. The lighting will be contained, all that stuff. But that's a whole nother video build series I'll get to here at some point when I'm ready to start those. But that wraps this up, and if you guys have anything, just hit me up, let me know. And other than that, I'm going to go ahead and start getting into this car over here. I've been itching to do it, and I want everybody to have a good day. And once again, hey, thanks for watching, thanks for the subscribes. You guys are really helping me out here, and it's really nice to be part of this hobby. So I want everybody to have a good day, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching.